Hi guys, it's good evening, right? Good evening. Huh? Done. Right, people online. So we are starting the new lesson today, and the tunes will be on the way. Right. Our focus. Yes. So we are starting microbiology, right? Uh, so like microbiology, we have like 2 tunes to go. Like actually 3 tunes to go. So this is the first one, and there will be 2 more, right? And afterwards, like there are many more like biology lessons, and we'll be covering step by step, right? So this is only the first part, and under this we are discussing mainly about the main microorganism sets. Like there are like 5 main microorganisms, and we discuss about their features and their respiratory types, the nutritional types, that the basic things. We are only discussing the basic things about the microorganisms under this first part, and in the second part we will be discussing about the productions that they make, right? In the final part we are discussing about the few of the basic theories in about the tissues and everything, right? So there is oh third day. Yes, right. May I the chemical evolution theory gatti. Yeah. So guys, listen. So we're starting microbiology, the part 1, right? So what are microorganisms is the first question, and now this question is also there in the past papers as well, and many of my papers also there was this question: what are microorganisms? So what are basically the microorganisms? The simple, yeah. I had to pay yes. The simple, the definition is unicellular or multicellular organisms that cannot be seen through naked eye. So unicellular multicellular කියන එකත් ඕනේ. ඒක ගොඩක් දීලා තිබ්බේ in the past papers cannot be seen through the naked eye කියන එක තමයි දීලා තිබ්බේ. කියන්නේ MCQs වල answers වලට select කරන්න. ලියන්න නෙමෙයි. MCQ answers වලට select කරන්න තිබ්බේ cannot be seen through the naked eye කියන එක. So when it say cannot be seen through or to the naked eye means what? Cannot be seen to the naked eye. Does it have a meaning? What does it mean? Huh? Yeah. Like, does it have? Yes. Does it have like sort of a size? It has a size. Like there's a size that we can see, and there's a size. Huh? Now, like there's an exact size that we give as a measurement. Like less than this size you can't see, and more than this size you can see. Sort of a size is there. So there's a sort of a size. So usually if the size of the microorganism is less than 0.1 millimeter, we usually call them the microorganisms, right? So the size is less than 0.1 millimeters. That is the size of microorganism. But usually the bacteria and funguses and all the viruses are all like very small than that, very small than 0.1 millimeters. But as a definition, what we call is like less than 0.1 millimeter we can't see, right? So when it says cannot be seen through the naked eye, the actual size is 0.1 millimeters, and in some books it says 0.2 millimeters as well, and in some questions as well the 0.2 millimeters also there, 0.1 millimeter is also there. So doesn't matter, whatsoever comes you take it right. 0.1 millimeter, 0.2 millimeter, both are correct, fine, right? Right. So the first thing says living beings who cannot be seen with our naked eyes are called as microorganisms. The study of microorganisms is called the microbiology, right? And under the microbiology we discuss about few of the microorganisms. I have categorized it into 5, but we only discuss about 4. The viruses are not coming for the exams. It was in the previous one, so you don't have to study the viruses. So the bacteria, funguses, protozoa, algae, they will be surely coming, right? So for the proper paper, in the first 10 questions or within first 20 questions, 5 to 8 සාමාන්‍ය 10 වලට මෙහා ගොඩක් නේ 10 වලට මෙහා 5 to 7 වගේ MCQs ගානක් එනවා මොකද ස්ට්‍රක්චර්ඩ් එකකට එන හින්දා ඒකින්ද ඕකේ percentage එක විතර ගත්තොත් 10% microbiology කියන්නේ 10% හැබැයි content එක ගත්තොත් පත content එකක් තියෙනවා හරි microbiology කියන එක එපා වෙන size එකට ලොකු content එකක් තියෙනවා හැබැයි ඒකෙන් එන්නේ 10% විතරයි exam එකට ඒ 10% වල MCQs තියෙනවා සාමාන්‍ය 5 to 7 වගේ MCQs දාන ඔය මුල් ප්‍රශ්න 20 ඇතුලේ. ඊට පස්සේ ස්ට්‍රක්චර්ඩ් එකේ එකක් වගේ එනවා. එකක් වගේ එනවා. හරි. අපි මේ සෙට් එකටම ලෑස්ති වෙමු ටික ටික. හරි. Right. So there are 5 categories of microorganisms in biosphere. They are bacteria, fungi, protozoa, algae and virus. Can you highlight these things? Highlight එකක් හැමතිස්සෙම ළඟ තියාගන්න. I don't know how do you do that. Huh? I think the cold is the best. Nah, ini volume button. මේක අපිට රික්වෙස්ට් කරලා තිබ්බා PDF එක කලර් චේන්ජ් කරන්න කියලා. පුළුවන් වෙනස් කර. ඈ? brightness අඩු කරන්න පුළුවන්. ගාලේ. අපි එතකම් පාඩම යන්නේ. Right? So highlight the 5 of the microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa and viruses, right? Then come to the size of the microorganisms, the size of the microorganisms. Microorganisms are too small to be seen with the naked eye. In other words, they are smaller than 0.1 millimeter. Highlight this one as well. Smaller than 0.1 millimeter. Right, 0.1 millimeter. Like if it is bright for you people from there, now think of myself, that's why I'm wearing this. Right, 0.1 millimeter. So micrometer and nanometer are used to measure their size. Make a highlight කරගන්න. Micrometer and nanometer තමයි ගොඩාක් වැඩිපුර පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ. හරි. To measure the size. Right. Now the next thing is spread of microorganisms. How the microorganisms are spreaded in the biosphere. And now usually the microorganisms are present in everywhere, right? Whatsoever the environmental condition is, they are always present everywhere, and we call it omnipresence, right? We call it the omnipresence. The microorganisms can be found in anywhere in the biosphere, even in the harsh conditions. Harsh conditions like what? Like in the volcanoes. Do you think the microorganisms are present? The bacteria and all? Yeah. Even in the volcanoes, yeah, the microorganisms are present. And in the hot water springs, yes, they are present. even in the brackish water, like very salty water, they are present, right. So, even in very harsh conditions, very harsh environmental conditions, these microorganisms are present, right, and we call it the omnipresence, right, we call it the omnipresence. So, there are reasons why the omnipresence is there, and like there are reasons why the microorganisms are spreaded around everywhere in the biosphere, right, we will be discussing those, right. So, come to this one, microorganisms are spread in soil, marine water, brackish water, atmosphere up to 6 kilometers, on an inside trees, inside the animal bodies, decaying garbage, extreme environments, hydrocarbons such as petrol and diesel. Microorganisms can be seen everywhere, right, and this is called the omnipresence. Yeah. So, this spread of microorganisms everywhere is called what? Omnipresence. Highlight this one, omnipresence, we call that omnipresence. We call that the omnipresence, right. So, now these are the reasons why the omnipresence is there, right. So, these are the reasons why the omnipresence is there. So, the first thing is what? They are small in size. See, when now you are discussing about microorganisms, right. Listen. Right? Enough. Right? Listen. So, now they are small in size, right? They are small in size. So, what do you understand when it says small in size, and how does it affect the omnipresence? Is it affecting the omnipresence, the size? Like being small in size, does it affect the omnipresence, like being available everywhere? Small in size is more survival than being large. What do you think? It's what? Yes, and why? The reason? Collection එකක් විතර ඉන්න පුළුවන්. පොඩි වුණාම හැංගෙන්න පුළුවන්. Okay. හැංගෙන්න පුළුවන්. Number of colony එකක් විතර ඉන්න පුළුවන්. Colony forming. Okay. Now the back pro. What do you think? What is omnipresence now? You know the omnipresence? No. The omnipresence is like the microorganisms are there in everywhere in the biosphere. Even in the harsh environmental conditions, they are present. Even in the volcanoes, they are present. That is called the omnipresence. They are everywhere. They are surviving anywhere. And one of the main reasons for the omnipresence is small in size. The size is very small. Now, how do you think the small in size affect the omnipresence? Small in size. What? How does small in size affect the omnipresence? Now, there is something given here. What? AV ratio. Hands up those who know AV ratio. AV ratio. AV ratio is what? Area over volume ratio. That means like in of all the microorganisms, AV ratio is very high. Now listen to this. Of all the microorganisms, AV ratio is very high. Right? AV ratio is very high. Right? The AV ratio is very high. Now the AV ratio is, A is area and the V is volume. So AV ratio is very high means it has a very high area and a very low volume. It means like it has a very high area in a very low volume, right? So that is what actually means the small in size, right? What actually means the small in size is high AV ratio, or it has a higher area in a very small volume. So how does it affect the back again the omnipresence? This is how it happens. Now let's think about the lungs or the stomach. Did you know that if you unfold the stomach or the lung, it's actually the stomach. Let's say the stomach. If you unfold the stomach, right? If you unfold the stomach, you can increase the area up to a tennis court. Did you know that? Yeah. Test what? No, not the not the intestine. It's the stomach. Huh? It's the stomach, as I remember. I think it's the stomach. Right? So one of the the unfoldable organs, stomach, right? So if you unfold it, you can unfold it up to area of a tennis court. That much of an area is there in a very small volume, right? So how is it effective for the stomach? How is it effective to the stomach? What does it do with a greater area? It has a very large area. What does it do with the area? Huh? It absorbs more food, yeah, because the larger the surface area, it can absorb more digested food to their bloodstream. So it will go to the cells, and the cell, the cell function, cell growth, and everything will happen, right? So that happens because it has a greater absorbency, right? It has greater absorbency. So the higher the surface area, what is the benefit? The absorbance is high. The absorbance is high. Higher the area, the absorbance is high. Absorbance is high, right? So now, what is the benefit of absorbing so much? Like when you are young, like chuti kale, your parents like always tell you that ikmanta kawathin ikmanta loku wenna puluwa ne, ikmanta kala ikmanta loku wenna, ikmanta kawath ikmanta loku wenna puluwa. They tell it, right? So it's the same thing happens to the microorganism. What happens to the microorganisms? Megollo, because they have a large surface area, they absorb number of nutrients rapidly, right? They absorb number of nutrients rapidly, so they grow really fast. Yes, they grow really fast. So that is one of the reasons for the omnipresence. So the larger the surface area, they absorb more nutrients, so they grow really fast. And when they grow really fast, what do they do next? What would you do when you grow up fast? Huh? Gym, you know? What do you do when you grow up fast? Huh? Can't hear. Tell. What do you do when you grow up? Yes. You continue the family, right? You reproduce, right? You reproduce, right? So what happens when you grow fast? You reproduce, right? So higher the growth rate, higher the reproduction rate as well, right? So because of the small in size or the large AV ratio, they grow faster, absorbing much of nutrients, and they reproduce faster in the sense like they increase the number, right? They reproduce faster. And so now what happens when they reproduce faster? Though you killed a large colony of bacteria, now even the Lifebuoy says what? Only 99%, 9 can be killed, right? Now what happens if 0.01% of bacteria was survived? It will rapidly increase the number by the rapid growth rate and the rapid reproduction rate. Yes? Hands up those who understood it. Like 99.9 destroy කරත් 0.1% ඉතුරු නොති. ඒ 0.1% එක මොකද කරන්නේ? It will rapidly grow and it will replace its quantity back in maybe in 3-4 hours, maybe in 24 hours it will be, you know, replacing the same amount of colony back again. How? Because of the high growth rate and the reproduction rate, and the high growth rate and the reproduction rate is there because of the small in size or the high AV ratio, because it can absorb more and it can grow faster and it reproduce faster. So those are the major two parts in the omnipresence. First thing is small in size, and the second thing is what? Fast growth rate and the fast reproduction rate, right? So it's there. Small in size means high AV ratio, which means absorption is high, right? Which means absorption is high, and because of that, the growth rate and the reproduction rate are also high. Can you highlight it? Small in size, because of that, high growth rate and high reproduction rate are there, right? High growth rate and high reproduction rates are there. Right? High growth rate and high reproduction rates are there. Third one, high nutritional and respiratory variety. We will be discussing this. Like, there is a high nutritional and respiratory variety. Like, there are 4 types of nutritional types, right? There are 4 nutritional types and there are 4 respiratory types, which means wheresoever the, you know, the microorganism is, it can find a way to nutrify itself, right? It can find a way to, you know, take the nutritions to itself. Yes, and wheresoever the microorganism is, it can find a way to respirate as well. Now, if you go to somewhere that oxygen is not anymore there, can you survive? You can't. You will completely vanish, right? You will discriminate. But what happened to the microorganisms? They survive, yeah, because they can depend on more than one respiratory types. And if you went out of the food, the usual food, you will be vanished. The whole human beings will be vanished. Maybe in like 7 days or more, will be vanished. But the microorganisms, they can find another way of nutritioning for themselves, right? And because of that, they are present everywhere. That is what called the omnipresence, right? Because of the different nutritional types and because of the different respiratory types, they are surviving everywhere, right? They are surviving everywhere. So there are high nutritional and respiratory variety or diversity, right? So now, any of you know the nutritional types? There are 4 types of. Bro, no. There are 4 nutritional types that it can take the nutrients into them. Not the nutritional types, like they take the nutrients in those 4 ways. What are the 4 ways? The VST people are supposed to know. You study this. I think you're studying like further than this, hopefully. Tamane. Okay. Accepted, huh? No. There are like phototrophs are there, chemotrophs are there, then the photoheterotrophs are there, and the chemoheterotrophs are there. So the 4 types are there, and we'll be discussing them as well, right? And the other one, the respiratory types. There are 4 respiratory types as well, right? So there are 4 respiratory types. So what are the 4 respiratory types? What are the 4 respiratory types? There are 4 respiratory types that they can, use a different type of gas to respirate, depending on the oxygen. There are 4 types. What are the 4 types of respiratory types? What are the 4 types of respiration of the microorganisms? Can online people tell? What are the 4 types? Aerobic. Yeah, we'll keep the anaerobic to the last. Aerobic, facultative, anaerobic, then microaerophilic, and finally the anaerobic. We will discuss. It will come like order, it will come in an order. I'll explain it, right? Right. So the next thing is morphological and physiological variety. So what is morphology? What is morphology? Morphological means the appearance, the outer appearance. Like, let's say an alien comes to the earth. What would they say about the morphology or the outer appearance of the all humans? Beautiful, yeah. Something else? They would say all are alike, yeah, because they all are same. If an alien comes to the earth and it sees everyone has like the 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 nose, everything are same. They will say like you're all alike, right? That is the morphology, right? That is the morphology. So if we take the humans, the morphology is same. But if we take the microorganisms, are the morphology same? No. If I take the microorganisms, some have flagellum, yeah, you know the flagellum, that tail. Some have flagellum, and some have like the cilia. Some have the cilia, and some have the pseudopods, yeah. Some have the pseudopods like the amoeba. Amoeba have pseudopods, yeah. So they have like different structures, different appearances. Yes, we call that the outer appearance is the morphology, right? Because of the different morphological structures, they can survive different places. You know, some can survive in the aquatic places. Yeah, they have the flagellum to move, and some can survive in the dry places. Yeah, and in the different conditions, they can survive because they have different the morphologies, right? Different structures, body structures. So they survive in different places, right? That is called the morphology. And the other thing is what? Morphological and physiological variety. What is physiology? Physiology is how the body is working, the functioning. Even the respiration is one of the functioning type. Now when we take something, there is a way of breaking it down, and energy is produced and the carbon dioxide is released. Sort of a mechanism is there. That mechanism that the body, you know, functions, we call it the physiology, right? We call it the physiology. The humans have a different physiology, and but like the humans have a different physiology than the other animals. But when it comes to the humans, all the physiology are same. If the physiology is like, if I take all the humans, the physiology of all the humans are same, right? That is why we have the same surgeries, same operations, same medicines, everything are same, right? But if you are a microorganism, you can't have the same everything, because your physiology are different. The body functioning are different. Yes? Yeah, the body functioning are different, right? They have different physiologies. Because of that, if one couldn't survive in one environment, others will, right? If one couldn't survive in one environment, but others will. හරිද? මොකක් එක environment එකේ එක්කෙනෙක්ට survive වෙන්න බැරුණා, අනිත් අය survive වෙනවා. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ physiology එක වෙනස්. දැන් අපේ හිම බෑ. අපේ environment එක වෙනස් වුණොත් අපිට survive වෙන්න බෑ කියලා කියන්නේ මුළු ඔක්කොටම වගේ survive වෙන්න බෑ. හැබැයි microorganisms ලගේ එහෙම නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ physiology එක වෙනස් හින්දා ඒ physiological difference එකේට ඔරොත්තු දෙන්නේ නැති කෙනෙක් vanish වුණත් ඒවට ඔරොත්තු දෙන අය ඕන තරම් ඉන්නවා. ඒ හින්දා කවදාවත් vanish වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරි. microorganisms ලා vanish වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ හින්දා අනිත් එක ඒගොල්ලෝ හැමතැනම ඉන්නවා. හැමතැනම ඉන්නවා. survive වෙනවා. හරි. කොහේ තිබ්බත් එයා survive වෙනවා. So that is called the morphological and physiological variety, right? Fifth one is symbiotic relationships, right? Having symbiotic relationships. So what is symbiotic relationship? What does it mean? Symbiotic relationships. Huh? Symbiotes. Tell me one of the symbiotes that you know. Venom. Venom is a symbiote, yeah. So now, yeah, he doesn't like to call it the parasite. So it's a symbiote, like the symbiote, right? So the symbiotic relationship means what? Two of the organisms, two of the organisms in two different species, like two of the organisms of two different species are living together, benefiting each other, not like that, benefiting each other, yes, is called the symbiotic relationship. Two of the different species organisms are living together, benefiting each other, is called the symbiotic relationship. And because of these symbiotic relationships, you know, the microorganisms are surviving everywhere. Like they are making symbiotic relationship with the more evaluated organisms. Like more evaluated means like the plants, like the microorganisms are living in the plant roots. One of the famous microorganism living in the plant roots is what? There's a separate type of plants that that sort of microorganisms are living. We call the legume plants. So what is the microorganism that lives in the legume plant root? Rhizobium, right? Rhizobium. Likewise, they are making symbiotic relationships with the evaluated organisms, so they can survive, right? That is called the symbiotic relationships, right? Symbiotic relationship. They have the symbiotic relationship. Can you highlight this? So, make an example clear. Write an example. Rhizobium living in legume plant roots, right? Rhizobium living in legume plant roots. Anaerobic, yeah. Lichen. Pull on. Even lichen is also one of the examples. So what is lichen made of? Do you know the lichens? Have you seen the lichens? Lichens are the white color dots in the rock surfaces. Is like, have you seen white and like light green color? You know the dots, like the patches, not the dots. They're like the patches. Huh? A round thing, galwala him. Haven't seen it? Lichens, right? You call that the lichens. Lichens are two organisms. What are the two organisms? One is a fungi. The other one is a cyanobacteria or algae, right? So what does the cyanobacteria do or the algae do? Photosynthesis, and it produces the food, right? And supplies the food to the fungi because it can't produce food itself. The fungi cannot produce food itself. So the cyanobacteria produces the food, and a small amount of food is given to the fungi. So what does the fungi do for that? What does the fungi do for that? Usually the cyanobacteria or the algae cannot live without any aquatic environment. It has to have water to live, right? So what the fungi does is, it has filaments. You know the filaments, like our antennas wage mean filaments, you know. So they, you know, using those filaments, they absorb the atmospheric water and supplies to the algae or the cyanobacteria, and they help each other to survive. That's how it happens, right? and that is also one of the symbiotic relationships. You can write it as well. That's called lichens. Lichens, right? Lichens are basically the algae or the cyanobacteria as well, and the fungi living together, right? Algae and the fungi living together. This is lichens, CHONS, LICHONS, lichens. Right. Come to the next one. Diversification of microorganisms. So microorganisms can be seen in all the three domains as bacteria, eukarya and archaea. Yeah, that's how the name sounds, but okay. Bacteria, eukarya and archaea. So which domain, like which domain do you think you belongs to? Which domain do you think you belongs to? Is it bacteria, archaea or eukarya? Huh? Archaea? No. It's eukaryotics, right? So you belong to eukarya actually, right? Listen, in the following table we can learn to which domain and kingdom particular microorganisms belong, right? So there are how many domains are there? Sometimes they ask the question, how many domains are there? Like, and what are the domains? There are only 3 domains. What are the 3 domains? Bacteria, eukarya and archaea. So both the archaea and bacteria are more or less same, but they have differences, right? They have differences. Archaea and bacteria are prokaryotic cells, which means they don't have an organized nucleus, right? They don't have an organized nucleus. So they are prokaryotes and they are more or less same, but they have differences. And the eukaryotes are the eukaryotes which has a organized nucleus, right? They have an organized nucleus, and we evolve from the eukaryotes. Yeah, we come under the domain of eukarya, right? So under the bacteria domain, there is a kingdom called bacteria kingdom. So the microorganisms belong bacteria and cyanobacteria. So the bacteria can be different type of respiratory types and different type of nutritional types. But when it comes to the cyanobacteria only do photosynthesis and they respirate aerobically, right? They are only respirating aerobically and doing photosynthesis. But when it comes to bacteria can be different. The variety of bacteria is more. The diversity of bacteria is more. But the algae or the cyanobacteria are only photosynthesizing and respirating aerobically, right? So when it comes to archaea, there is a kingdom called archaea, and the microorganism that is belong to are the archaea as well. So now these archaea are the microorganisms that can live under the harsh conditions that we discussed. Archaea are the bacteria who lives in the volcanoes, who lives in the hot water springs, in the brackish water, everywhere like the harsh conditions. The microorganisms which live in the harsh conditions are the archaebacteria, right? Not the bacteria. Archaebacteria are the ones who are living in the very harsh conditions. Yes. So they have differences compared to the bacteria, right? They can live under very harsh conditions. Yes. And when it comes to the eukarya, there are few of kingdoms. Like there's only 4 given. Different divisions are there. Like මේකේ types ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. එක එක්කෙනා එක වර්ගයක propose කරලා තියෙනවා. මේ තියෙන එක වර්ගයක් විතරයි. හොඳ. ඒතර මේකේ හැටියට eukarya එකේ kingdom තියෙන්නේ 4යි. හරිද? සමහර අය 5කට වර්ග කරලා තියෙනවා. හරිද? සමහර ඒවා 6කට වර්ග කරලා තියෙනවා. එක ඒවා වෙනස්. දැන් මේකේ දීලා තියෙන්නේ 4යි. So we'll only consider these 4, right? So what are the kingdoms that the what are the kingdoms in the eukaryote? Protista, fungi, plantae and animalia, right? These are the 4 kingdoms. And in the protista, pseudopods and algae are present, right? But usually algae is, taken separately, right? Algae are discussed separately, not in the under the protista. And fungi, they have fungi, the plantae have the plants, animalia has the animals, right? So these are the kingdoms, right? Then come to the nutritional type of microorganism. Now this is important. So what are the nutritional types, and what is the need of taking nutritions? Why do you take the nutritions? Why do you have to take the nutritions? And what are the resources of nutrition? ඇඟේ ශක්තිය සඳහා. That's a good one, right? Why do you have to take the nutritions? One of the reasons is, the second reason is growth. So both are correct. So one of the reason is shaktiya, that's for the need of energy, right? The second reason is the growth is also correct, right? The growth is also correct, right? So for these 2 main reasons, for the energy and the growth, depending on 2 sources, depending on 2 sources, there are 4 types, right? So there are 2 sources, there are 2 nutritioning sources. What do you think the two nutritioning sources are? There are 2 sources that we take the nutritions. Like as you said, one of the source is like energy source. One of the source supposed to be the energy source. The other source is, what source do you use to grow up? What do you think? What do you think you used to grow up? Protein? ඊටත් වඩා පොඩ්ඩක් පල්ලෙහා තියෙන එක. ඒ කියන්නේ සිම්පල් ෆෝමැට් එකක් ගැන කියන්නේ. ප්‍රෝටීන් කියන්නේ ඊට වඩා ටිකක් උඩ තියෙන එක. ඈ. ඔයාට ග්‍රෝ වෙන්න මොනවාද ඇත්තටම ඕන? ඊට වඩා ගොඩාක් පල්ලෙහාදී කියන්නේ basic level එකේ තියෙන එකක්. That is also one of the protein, carbohydrate, more like same. Even vitamins comes the same. Nutrition එකක්, ඒ කියන්නේ nutrition එකක් නෙමෙයි, ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාට grow වෙන්න mainly ඕන වෙන්නේ ඒක. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක simple එක තමයි මේ කියන්නේ, simplest එක. You have to take carbon somehow. Doesn't mean you have to eat carbon. You have to take carbon. How do you take the carbon? Now everything what you said is the way of taking the carbon. You said carbohydrate, protein, vitamins, everything, food, everything are the source of carbon, right? So using all that, what do you take? You take carbon. Why do you have to take the carbon? Because all of your structures are made of carbon. If you are burned, if you are incinerated, what will lift? The carbon will lift. Because your body is completely made of what? Made of carbon. So you will have to take carbon, right? You will have to take carbon and the energy. So these are the 2 requirements, right? These are the 2 nutritional requirements. What are the 2 nutritional requirements? One is the carbon requirement, the other one is the energy requirement. So you will have to fulfill 2 of these requirements to survive, right? The nutritioning is, taking these 2 sources to survive, right? What are the 2 sources? One is the carbon, the other thing is the energy, right? We'll explain, right? So there are 2 of the resources, right? One is energy, right? One is energy. I'll take the energy to this side. Listen. Right, one is energy, other one is carbon, and there are listen, there are two energy sources. What are the two energy sources? No. Energy sources. There are two energy sources. What are the two energy sources? Two energy sources are, one is what? Photo energy. You call the photo. Photo means the energy of sun usually, right? Energy of sun, photo energy. You call it the photo energy. The other one is what? Chemical energy. The other one is chemical energy. So two of the energy sources are what? Photo and chemical. Those are the two energy types, right? And what are the two carbon sources? What are the two carbon sources? Yeah, there's a more common name for that. Huh? Not correct. One is carbon dioxide, right? Who takes carbon dioxide? Who takes carbon dioxide? Huh? Usually the autotrophs, or the organisms which synthesize new foods, are taking carbon dioxide, right? And we call it the inorganic carbon, which means the carbon which is freely available, not produced by anyone, right? It's freely available in the atmosphere and everywhere, and it's not produced by anyone. It's something that is already there. It's not produced by anyone. It's always there, right? We call it the inorganic carbon. What do you call it? Inorganic carbon. Inorganic carbon is basically the carbon dioxide, right? Inorganic carbon is basically the carbon dioxide. The other thing is what? Organic carbon, right? Organic carbon are the produced carbon, which means maybe carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, all are produced by sort of a autotroph, yeah? Sort of a autotroph has produced these everything, right? Carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, any of these organic carbons are produced by someone, right? Produced by someone. And that is called organic carbon, which is produced food. Produced food in the sense like not the kadeye thiyena foods නෙමෙයි. Produced food means sort of a organism has produced it. Protein, carbohydrate, lipids. We are even ourselves we are producing it. Yeah, we are producing it. So those carbons are called what? Organic carbon, which are the produced food. So now, if you are consuming, right? If you are consuming inorganic carbon, there's a certain name we call for them. If you are using inorganic carbon as the carbon resource, there's a certain name we call for that. No, even Atif has answered, I didn't see that, I'm sorry. Can you tell? Bro, yo, do your work. They will do theirs. Huh? So what is the inorganic, like there's a certain name for the organism that take the inorganic carbon. What do you call the organism that take the inorganic carbon? What do you call it? Autotrophs. Yes. The organism which take the inorganic carbon as their carbon resource are called autotrophs, right? These are called autotrophs. Right? These are called the autotrophs. And what do you call the organisms which take the organic carbon or the produce food? We call them the heterotrophs, right? We call them the heterotrophs. We call them the heterotrophs. for the H, right? We call them heterotrophs, right? So if the carbon resource is inorganic carbon, they are autotrophs. If the carbon resource is organic carbon, they are heterotrophs. That is how the autotrophs and heterotrophs are named. So are we heterotrophs or the autotrophs? We are heterotrophs, right? We don't use the carbon dioxide to produce food, right? We only take the other's food who someone produced. Yeah. So we are the heterotrophs, right? So depending on the energy resources, 2 energy resources and 2 carbon resources, there are 4 nutritional types. What are the 4 nutritional types? If any of the organism is using photo energy and inorganic carbon, they are called photoautotrophs. Get it? If any of the organism is using photo energy as energy source and inorganic carbon as their carbonic source, they are called photoautotrophs, right? They are called photoautotrophs, right? They are called photoautotrophs. And if any of the organisms are using chemical energy, right? If any of the organisms are using chemical energy and the inorganic carbon as their carbon resource, they are called chemoautotrophs, right? They are called the chemoautotrophs. Chemoautotrophs, right? They are called the chemoautotrophs. And if any of the organisms, listen, if any of the organisms are using the photo energy and the organic carbon, photo energy and the organic carbon as their carbon resource, they are called photoheterotrophs. Yeah, they call the photoheterotrophs. Photoheterotrophs, right? They call the photoheterotrophs. And if any of the organism is using chemical energy as their energy resource and the produced carbon or the organic carbon as their carbon resource, they are called what? Chemoheterotrophs. They are called the chemoheterotrophs. Chemoheterotrophs, right? They are called the chemoheterotrophs, right? And they have like few of the examples that you are supposed to remember, right? So there are, listen, photoautotrophs, there are 3 examples given, right? There are 3 examples given for the photoautotrophs in the syllabus. What are the 3 examples? One is green sulfur bacteria, the other one is purple sulfur bacteria, and the third one is cyanobacteria, right? You're supposed to remember all that. So what are the 3 examples? Green sulfur bacteria, second is purple sulfur bacteria, third is cyanobacteria, right? Third is cyanobacteria. And chemoautotrophs, there are only 2 examples given. Now come to the front. Take the tube and come. Right? There are 2 examples given for the chemoautotrophs. What are the 2 examples? Do you know? Like, do you know any of the examples for the chemoautotrophs? Huh? Yeah, it's given in the tube. Yeah. Yeah. So the 2 examples are. You stay there. Passini pada. Topic එක යන්කි. පාඩම යන්කිද topic එක යන්කිද? Lesson එක. Yeah. Can take it as part. Right? 2 of the autotrophs are there, right? You have to remember that these will be asked in the MCQs and even in the structures නේ ගොඩක් තියෙනවා අහලා තියෙනවා නිතරම මොනවාද දෙන්නා nitrosomonas, right? Nitrosomonas, right? Nitrosomonas and the nitrobacter, right? And the nitrobacter, nitrosomonas and nitrobacter are the two chemoautotrophs, right? Those are the two chemoautotrophs, and these two you will again meet in another place in the lesson, that is under the nitrogen cycle, right? These two you will again meet in the nitrogen cycle as well. So these are two of the bacteria responsible for the nitrification step. There's a nitrification step in the nitrogen cycle. So these two bacteria are again responsible for the nitrification in the nitrogen cycle. And you will be asking questions combining nitrogen cycle and the nutritional types in the future papers, you know. There will be combined questions from two of the parts. So you have to have collective knowledge from each and every part, because these microorganisms are repeating everywhere. You will find the same microorganism in many different places, and you will have to have a collective knowledge of each and every part, right? So you will have to study it with a proper understanding and a memory, yeah, because you will have to recall it from many other places as well, right? And the next, the photoheterotrophs. There are only two photoheterotrophs, right? There are only two photoheterotrophs, right? There are only two photoheterotrophs, and they are the opposite of the two of the photoautotrophs. හරි මේ ඉන්න photoheterotrophs ලා දෙන්නයි ඉන්නේ. photoheterotrophs ලා දෙන්නා මෙන්න මේ photoautotrophs ලා දෙන්නගේ opposite එක. ඒ කියන්නේ green sulfur bacteria නේ මෙයා. එයාගේ photoautotroph විදියට ඉන්නේ green non sulfur bacteria, right? You call it the green non sulfur bacteria. Green non sulfur bacteria, right? Green non sulfur bacteria. ඒක ලේසි මතක තියාගන්න. මෙයාගේම opposite එක. දෙවෙනි එක කෙනා තමයි මොකද්ද? මෙයාගේ purple sulfur bacteria නේ ඉන්නේ. මෙයාගේ ඉන්නේ no purple non sulfur bacteria. Purple non sulfur bacteria. හරි. මෙයාගේ ඉන්නේ purple non sulfur bacteria. මේ දෙන්න විතරයි මේ දෙන්නගේ ඉන්නේ. හරි? මේ දෙන්න විතරයි ඉන්නේ. හරි. මෙයාගේම opposite එක මෙයාගේ ඉන්නේ. chemoheterotrophs ලා ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා. හරිද? chemoheterotrophs ලා ගොඩක් ඉන්නවා. chemoheterotrophs ලා ඒ කියන්නේ complete අර අපි කියන්නේ phylum එකක් කියලා. complete phylum එක මේ කියන්නේ set of organisms are like almost all the organisms in that phylum are heterotrophs. එහෙම දෙකක් තියෙනවා. හරිද? ඔක්කොම heterotrophs ලා ඒ phylum දෙකේ. ඒ දෙන්න තමයි කවුද? funguses. All the fungi are chemoheterotrophs. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වෙන මොකුත්ම නැහැ. ඔක්කොම chemoheterotrophs. අනිත් එක තමයි protozoa. protozoa set එකේ ඔක්කොම chemoheterotrophs. ඒ දෙන්නගේ අපි කියන්නේ phylum එක කියලා. phylum එකේ set එකම chemoheterotrophs ලා වෙන්නේ. funguses and protozoa. So all the protozoa and all the fungi are chemoheterotrophs. And the majority of the bacteria, not all, like the bacteria has all the four types of nutritioning types, but majority of them are what? Chemoheterotrophs, right? Majority of them are chemoheterotrophs. So all the funguses, all the fungi, all the fungi and all the protozoa all the protozoa and majority of bacteria, right? Majority of bacteria are chemoheterotrophs, right? Now you're supposed to have a sticky note here. Hi, මං කියලා තියෙනවා sticky notes. Yeah, sticky notes ගන්න. Highlight එකයි sticky note එකයි අනිවාර්යෙන් ළඟ තියාගන්න. නැත්නම් you take a piece of paper and write down this table. Write down this table and you're supposed to remember all this, huh? You're supposed to remember all this. සාමාන්‍ය නිකම් paper එකක භාගික table එක ලියාගන්න. Can you make a memorize කරලා ලියන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඈ? memorize කරලා ලියමුද? 5 minutes අරගෙන. ඇයි memorize කරලා ලියමු? මේ ජිට්ටස් හැමෝටම නෑ sorry සර් හැමෝම ආදරය හොයනකොට මම හිව්වේ S50 කියලා. මේක හොයන්නේ දැම්ම නෙමෙයි අන්තිම කාලේ නෝට. ඔයගොල්ලෝ තිබුණේ. 25 කට්ටිය දාලා තියෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ මේක වැඩිපුර දැනෙන්න ගන්නව දැම්ම නෙමෙයි. when the exams are getting close මෙන්න මේක දැනෙන්න ගන්නවා. සර් හැමෝම ආදරය හොයනකොට මම හිව්වේ S50 කියලා. අන්තිමට කියනකොට හොඳටම හොයන්න හිතනවා වැඩිපුරත් එක්ක. දැන් මේ අයියලා එහෙම තමයි. අයියලා එහෙම ආදරේ හොයන්නේ S50 තමයි හොයන්නේ. හොයාගෙන එනවා. මේක memorize කරලා ලියන්න පුළුවන් නම් 5 minutes අරගෙන you try to do that. It's a good thing if you can do that. note එක දාගෙන තියවරද? note එක දාගෙන තියවරද? වෙලාව දෙනවද ලියන්න? Finish. Finish. Yeah. Atif, any questions? Atif. Hmm? Atif Ahmad is one of the singers, ni? Yeah, yeah. Atif Ahmad is one of the famous Pakistan singers. Atif, which school are you from, Atif? Not Zaira, right? Hi, Zaira. Atif is Zaira. Right? Shall we come to the tune back? Yeah? Shiny no, dana shiny no. Yeah, shiny available. Happy birthday. Hi, Venice. Huh? Sira? Adil. Right, come to the tute. Right? Listen, listen, listen. So there are how many nutritional types? 4 nutritional types are there, right? 4 nutritional types are there. So come to the theory back. There is a vast diversity of microorganisms in the way of fulfilling their nutrition. There are 4 methods how microorganisms fulfill nutrition as photoautotrophs, chemoautotrophs, photoheterotrophs and chemoheterotrophs, right? So microorganisms can be divided into 2, autotrophs and heterotrophs, and the autotrophs are the ones who are using carbon dioxide as their carbon resource, and the heterotrophs are the ones who are using organic carbon as their carbon resource. And the heterotrophs and autotrophs can be divided back again into 2, photoautotrophs and chemoautotrophs, and the heterotrophs again back can be divided into 2, the chemoheterotrophs and the photoheterotrophs, right? So the examples are even given there, right? ඔය එතකොට අපි ගහපු ටේබල් එක ඔක පාඩම් කරන්න ලේසි විදියක්. ඕක අලවල තියාගන්න අඩියෙන් හරි නැත්නම් ස්ටිකි නෝට් එකක් තිබ්බනම් ලේසි. ස්ටිකි නෝට් එක තිබ්බා ඇලෙව්වා. ස්ටිකි නෝට්ස් එකකින්ද ගේන ස්ටිකි නෝට් එකයි highlight එකයි නිතර ළඟ තියාගන්න. හරි. Right. Come to the photoautotroph bacteria, right? Photoautotroph bacteria. Right, so what are the photoautotrophs? The ones who are using the light energy as their energy resource and the inorganic carbon or the carbon dioxide as their carbon resource නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ අපි කියන photo autotrophs photo කියලා කියන්නේ energy resource එක autotroph කියන එකේ ඉන්නේ carbon resource එකේ නේ autotrophs කියන්නේ inorganic carbon use කරන හින්දා right so these bacteria use the energy of sunlight and inorganic carbon as their carbon resource right highlight it these bacteria use energy of sunlight and inorganic carbon as their carbon resource right using those two resources they can synthesize their own foods right autotrophs ලට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ foods එයාටම synthesize කරගන්න පුළුවන් නේ they can synthesize their own foods හරි මේ දෙන්න තමයි important නා energy resource එක sunlight carbon resource එක inorganic carbon and what are the examples මේවා අහනවා MCQs වල අහනවා නිතර මොනවාද examples green sulfur bacteria purple sulfur bacteria and cyanobacteria right these are the examples green sulfur bacteria purple sulfur bacteria and cyanobacteria right right come to this one chemoautotrophic bacteria right chemoautotrophic bacteria these bacteria uses carbon dioxide or inorganic carbon highlight it uses carbon dioxide or the inorganic carbon as their carbon source and uses inorganic chemical compounds right inorganic chemical compounds as their energy resource right so do you see something their carbon resource and energy resource both are inorganic compounds aren't they are like carbon resource is inorganic carbon and their energy resource is back again inorganic chemical compound so they use inorganic chemicals for their carbon resource and the energy resource as well නේ ඒ වගේ මොනවද specificities තියෙනවා හොඳේ there are carbon sources and uses inorganic chemical highlight inorganic chemical compounds as their energy resource මේ දෙක තමයි important carbon resource එක carbon dioxide energy resource එක inorganic chemical compounds right as the energy resource using those resources they have the ability of synthesizing the foods they require right and the examples are what nitrosomonas and nitrobacter nitrosomonas nitrobacter මේ simple ඒවා මතක තියාගත්තාන් පස්සේ ඊටු ටික හදා ගන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ පොඩි ඒවා ටික මතක තියාගන්න carbon resource එකයි energy resource එකයි මතක තියාගන්න examples මතක තියාගන්න ඊටු ටික build කරගන්න පුළුවන් උත්තරේ ලියනකොට හදා ගන්න පුළුවන් හොඳ he's asking which school I'm from not from here you know like your colleagues are here the Zaira people are here your seniors right like any other Zaira people here your Zaira no any other Zaira right no not here few of them are in Shakti few people are there in Shakti listen next the chemoheterotrophs right chemoheterotrophs listen consumes food primitively synthesized by the autotrophs ඒ කියන්නේ autotrophs ලා හදපු foods වල තමයි මෙයා depend වෙන්නේ නේ chemoheterotrophs ලා කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ autotrophs වල produce කරපු food වලින් depend වෙනවා right to meet their necessity of carbon and energy as an example most of the bacteria all the fungi and protozoan even usually us ourselves are we like which nutrition type do we have like how do you take the energy what is your energy source the food you take so that is organic carbon so you are autotroph or heterotroph you are heterotroph and what is your energy source that was the energy source even the carbon source is that So its energy source is chemical, and the carbon source is also the chemicals, the organic carbon. So yeah, chemoheterotrophs, right? We are all chemoheterotrophs. So now in this case, chemoheterotrophs consume food primitively synthesized by the autotrophs to meet the necessity of carbon. So consume food primitively produced, right? Consume the food primitively synthesized. What does it mean there? Which means organic carbon, right? Which means the organic carbon is the carbon resource by autotrophs to meet the necessity of carbon and energy. Now there is a specificity there. What? The energy resource and the carbon resource both are organic carbon or the produced food. Ne? අපේ carbon source එකයි energy source එකයි දෙකම මොනවාද? Organic carbon. Produced food වලින් අපි දෙකම ගන්න. Energy ගන්නෙත් carbon වලින්, මේ energy ගන්නෙත් produced food වලින්, carbon ගන්නෙත් produced food වලින් නේ. දෙක නම් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ මෙයාව. Energy එක ගන්නෙත් එයාගෙන්මයි. Consumes food primitively synthesized for carbon and energy. And the examples are what? Most of the bacteria, all of the fungi and protozoa. Right. Now look at this. Certain chemoheterotrophs breaks down complex carbon compounds to simple carbon compounds in multicellular beings, dead bodies, using enzymes to fulfill their carbon requirement. Then that is called extracellular digestion. Now do you understand this part, the extracellular digestion? Listen. There is something called extracellular digestion. This only happens in two of the organisms. One is fungi, the other one are the bacteria. Bacteria and fungi does the extracellular digestion. What do you call the extracellular digestion? You do not speak when I am talking. I am going to tell you that again. Right, so extracellular digestion is also there, right? What does the extracellular digestion mean? What do you mean by extracellular digestion? What do you mean extracellular digestion? No. Extracellular means out of the cell. Digestion is simple, the digestion. So the digestion occurs out of the cell, which means they secrete the enzymes out of the cell, right? They secrete the enzyme out of the cell, and the digestion happens out of the cell. Now if you have noticed, when apidum bath hari, pang hari, when you kept it for a long time, what happens to the appearance, the physical appearance of it? It becomes slimy. Ara nikan diyaru gatiyak enawane. Why does it become slimy? Because of the extracellular digestion. Because the digestion happens out of the cell. Because what the funguses and bacteria do is they secrete the enzymes on top of the food. So the digestion happens outside. So it's like very slimy. All the appearances are broken down and everything is really slimy. That is why the food looks slimy when it gets rotten, right? And that is because of the bacteria and the funguses, and you call it the extracellular digestion. So the extracellular digestion is done, it happens only in bacteria and funguses. So under that what we discussed, the extracellular digestion only happens in bacteria and funguses, right? So in certain chemoheterotrophs break down complex carbon compounds to simple carbon compounds in multicellular beings, dead bodies, using enzymes to fulfill their carbon requirement. You call it what? Extracellular digestion. Extracellular digestion. Right? Shall we write down a simple meaning of this? Write down a simple meaning of it. The extracellular digestion means they secrete enzymes. They secrete enzyme. They secrete enzyme. Secrete. S-E-C-R-E-T-E. Secrete. Enzymes out of the cells. They secrete enzymes out of the cell on the dead plant and animal tissues, on the dead plant and animal tissues, and digest them outside the cell. Plant and animal tissues and digest them outside the cell. ඔය sticky notes තිබ්බනම් sticky notes දාගන්න එක තමයි ඔයාලට හරියන්නේ. sticky note එකක් දාගන්න. හරි, ඒකට අපි කියන extracellular digestion. Right? And who does the extracellular digestion mostly? The bacteria and funguses, right? The bacteria and funguses does the extracellular digestion mostly, right? And there will be questions of these things. Podi points em godak important ewa tiyenawa. Right. Come to the next one. Certain chemoheterotrophs absorb complex carbon into their bodies and then secrete enzymes to break down the carbon compounds intracellularly, right? So this is called the intracellular digestion. Intracellular digestion means they take the food particles inside their body. They take the food particles inside to their body and digestion happens inside the cell. The body means the cell, right? They take the food particles into their cell and the digestion happens inside the cell. You call it the intracellular digestion. So usually the amoeba, have you seen the amoeba taking the food? What do? They use the pseudopods to cover the food particle. Sometimes they are another bacteria or some sort of a microorganism, maybe a paramecium, right? They use the pseudopods to to grab the food particles or any of the microorganisms, and they take it to their body or the cell, and the digestion happens inside the cell, right? The digestion happens inside the cell, and once the digestion is finished, the excretory products are excreted through the surface of the cell, right? That is what happens. So now that is called the intracellular digestion. So it's usually done by the protozoa. Amoeba is one of the protozoa, and the paramecium is one of the protozoans. They all do intracellular digestion, right? So highlight these things. The certain chemoheterotrophs absorb complex carbon into their bodies, right? Absorb complex carbon into their bodies and secrete enzymes to break down the carbon compounds intracellularly. There is intracellular digestion, right? Intracellular digestion. Shall we write down this one? A simple definition of intracellular digestion. Write down. It grabs the food particles. Atif, I'll be giving you marks today itself. I checked your marks because did it? No, I'll text you on that. I'll text you, Atif. So now, what did I say? It grabs the food particles into the cell, and digestion happens, inside the cell, The digestion happens inside the cell. Digestion happens inside the cell. Excretory products are excreted. Excretory products are excreted. Excretory products are excreted through the surface of the cell. Excretory products are excreted through the surface of the cell. Through the surface of the cell, right? And that is called the intercellular digestion, right? Intercellular digestion. So who does the intercellular digestion? Protozoans, right? Protozoans are the ones who are doing the extracellular digestion. Yes, good. Right, then come to the photoheterotrophic microorganisms. So what are the photoheterotrophic microorganisms? They, like, these microorganisms are really rare because they do have like a separate energy source to take the energy, but still they depends on the produced carbon, right? They have an energy source, a separate energy source. They are using the photo energy or the energy of the sun. Still they, though they use the sun energy of the sun, still they use organic or the produced carbon to fulfill their carbonic need as well. They could have used something inorganic, because they already have the energy. They take the energy from the sun, and still for the carbon resource they are using the produced carbon, right? Now shall we write it down? Yeah, write it down. Write down the organisms which use, may I make it? Tell me. Organisms which use energy of sunlight, organisms which use energy of sunlight as their energy resource, energy of sunlight as their energy resource, and uses organic carbon, within brackets produced food. Organic carbon can produce food, and uses organic carbon within brackets produce food as their carbon resource, are called photoheterotrophs. And what are the examples? There are only two examples, and I already told you that. What were the two examples? The opposite of the photoautotrophs, two of the photoautotrophs. What were the opposite of the two of the autotrophs? The photoautotrophs? Green non-sulfur bacteria and purple non-sulfur bacteria, right? So it's, write down, it's green non-sulfur bacteria, right? These are not scientific names, so you don't have to underline. These are not scientific names, right? And the other one is purple non-sulfur bacteria. Purple non-sulfur bacteria, right? right? Now the next thing is respiration of the microorganism. So depending on the abundance or the, how do you call it, depending on the connection to the oxygen, you can tell it that way as well. Depending on the connection to the oxygen, there are 4 types of respiration. What are the 4 types of respiration you think? First thing is aerobic, which means they need oxygen to respirate, or to, you know, the what do you do when you respirate? What do you do with the respiratory gases? What happens when you respirate? Now that inhale exhale is, there is there is not the respiration that we talk here. What the respiration we talk here is the cellular respiration that happens in the cellular level. So what happens when you take the oxygen to your cells? Using that oxygen, you break down the organic compounds inside your cell. Let's say the glucose. So you are breaking down glucose inside your cell using oxygen. And when you break down the glucose using that oxygen, what is produced? Energy is produced. So that energy is the energy that you use to do everything. Yeah, that is the energy that you use to do everything. That is why you eat. Yeah, so that food that you take is taken into your cells, and combining with the oxygen, the food is breaking down into like carbon dioxide, water and unwanted particles, and the energy is released. That released energy is used to do everything, right? Everything, like all the works that you do are because of the energy that is released inside the cell because of the oxygen. That is called the cellular respiration, right? That is one of the metabolism. Right? We call it the metabolism as well. Breaking down. So now this respiration is there to produce energy, right? So the respiratory types are there to produce energy. All the respiration are responsible for the production of energy. They produce energy in the respiration, right? So now come to the aerobic respiration. So there are 4 types of respiration. First one is aerobic respiration. Second one is facultative anaerobics. Third one is microaerophilic. Fourth one is anaerobic. ඒක මම හදපු ඕඩර් එකක් හොඳයි. ඔය ඕඩර් එකට මතක තියාගන්න, ඔය ඕඩර් එකට තමයි ඔක්සිජන් වල තියෙන abundance එක අඩු වෙලා යන්නේ. ඔක්සිජන් වල කනෙක්ෂන් එක අඩු වෙන විදිහට තමයි හදලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒතර වැඩිම කනෙක්ෂන් එකක් තියෙන්නේ කාටද? Aerobics ලට. Aerobics වලගේ තමයි ඔක්සිජන් කනෙක්ෂන් එක වැඩිම. So now come to the aerobic microorganisms. These organisms can only use O2 for their respiration. හරිද? මේගොල්ලන්ට O2 ඇරෙන්න වෙන මොකුත් පාවිච්චි කරන්න බෑ. If the in the absence of the O2, they will die. Even we will die, right? In the absence of the oxygen, we can't survive, right? We will die. And now this is the, you know, the chemical equation of aerobic respiration, and this is what happens inside a cell. What happens inside a cell? The glucose is reacting with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water and produces energy. So this is the chemical reaction of what? Aerobic respiration, right? This is the chemical reaction of aerobic respiration. What does it do? They break down the glucose to produce carbon dioxide, water and energy, right? And the examples are Azotobacter and Acetobacter as well. There's another one. Write down this one as well. Acetobacter. Write down Acetobacter as well, right? Azotobacter and Acetobacter. Azotobacter and Acetobacter. And highlight the chemical reaction as well, right? This chemical reaction is important. මේකද? මේක මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. අමාරුයි තමයි. අමාරුවට මතක තියාගන්න ඕන. හරි. අමාරුවෙන් හරි මතක තියාගන්න වෙනවා. right hari so the next thing is facultative anaerobics. What are the facultative anaerobics? The organisms which can respirate using oxygen. In the presence of oxygen they respirate using oxygen, but in the absence of the oxygen what do? They use a different source of respiratory gas to do the respiration, or they use a separate different type of a respiration type for the surviving. So when in the presence of the oxygen they respirate using oxygen, and in the absence of the oxygen they use a different type, or they use anaerobic respiration when in the absence of oxygen, right? That is called facultative anaerobic. So now the important thing is, in facultative anaerobic respiration, in the absence of the oxygen they do a very important type of a respiration, and that respiration is called something something very how do I tell, seems very really important in the industry of production of something. What production? The toddy production, or the production of alcohol, right? Production of alcohol. The production of alcohol happen because of the the anaerobic respiration of the facultative anaerobic bacteria. Yeah. So the toddy production or the alcohol production, the natural alcohol production happen because of what? Because of the the anaerobic respiration of facultative anaerobic bacteria. Now, so one of the main reasons why people drink, yeah. මේක හොයාගන්න, ඒ කියන්නේ මේක ඒ කියන්නේ ඇල්කොහොල් කියලා එකක් මුලින්ම ප්‍රොඩියුස් වෙන්න මේන් රීසන් එක තමයි කවුද? මේක නේ. Right. Right. So these organisms can use oxygen for their respiration, but in case if O2 was absent, they can anaerobically respirate, right? And their anaerobic respiration is what? You call it the fermentation. Fermentation is production of alcohol, right? Alcohol. So what is the organism responsible for that? Saccharomyces cerevisiae, and the Saccharomyces cerevisiae is what? Yeast. That is the yeast, right? Yeast produces what? Yeah, the alcohol, right? Yeast produces the alcohol, right? And the reaction is this. This is glucose, and the glucose is converted into C2H5OH, which is the ethanol, and the byproduct is carbon dioxide. Now what is this carbon dioxide now? In toddy, have you seen the toddy? Toddy, the raw? Practical එක කරනවා, toddy production එක අපි කරනවා. ඉස්සරහට කරනවා. Yes. If you at least බොන්න දෙනවා. හරිද? If you have seen a beer, if you at least have seen a beer එකේ තියෙන gas එක හැදෙන්නේ කොහොමද? Carbon dioxide. It's the carbon dioxide produced by the yeast, ne? So the yeast produces what? Carbon dioxide, and that's the gas in the toddy and even in the beer. And we are learning the beer production as well in the the coming lessons. We be Kasiprutti, and we did a oh palthuru kapala එහෙම තමයි අද cocktail දාලා mocktail දාලා එහෙම තමයි. And we අපි extraction එක කරා, අපි කියන්නේ කසිප්පු extraction එකක් කරා. බිව්වනේ. බිව්වේ. ඈ? දැන් මාස කීපයක ඔයගොල්ලෝ එන්න කලින්. ඔව් දෙනවා. ගෙදර අරන් යන පැකට් කරලා දෙනවා වෙනවා. right. හරි. මේ දෙන්න highlight කරගන්න. මේ අනිත් එක නා තමයි E. coli එක්කෙනෙක්. facultative anaerobic ලා දෙන්නෙක්. right. අපි මේක ඉතුරු ටික we'll discuss the next day. right. මෙයාම තමයි. saccharomyces cerevisiaම තමයි. ඊස් පොඩ්ඩක් දාලා තියෙනවා conditions තියෙනවා ඊස් විතරක් දාලා බෑ. So guys, online, adios, we'll catch you and the dudes will be sent. පටන් ගන්න. නියමයි. කොයි සෙට් එක? මේගොල්ලන්ගේ මේ ආසේ තුන් දෙනා ඉන්නේ. හා. හෙට ඉඳලා දිගටම පටන් ගන්නවා. මෙහෙමයි. සතියට දවස් දෙකක් තිබ්බන. ඔව් දවස් දෙකක් ඇති. ඔව්. හොඳට මේ මෙයාව අල්ලගන්න. මෙයාගෙන් පොඩි කුප්පියක් දාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක මේ අර නිල්පන්. දැන් මේ අවුරුදු සමී වැඩ කරගෙන යනවා. right.
සර් මේ අර ඩේට්ස් එක රෙකෝඩින් එකේ
එළුවා නැද්ද? ඉල්ලුවේ නැද්ද?
නෑ මාස්ටර් ටික මේ ෆෝස් ලෙසන් එක පටන් ගත්ත දවසේ මේ මෙසේජ් එකක් දාලා මේගොල්ලෝ මේ ඩේට්ස් ටියුන් කරන නැත්තම් ආවන්න මේගොල්ලෝ ලෙසන්
පෝස්ට් ලෙසන් ටික මම එවන්නම් ඔයාලට. මම ඒ ටික එවන්නම්. පෝස්ට් අනිත් ටික
ෆෝස් දාගේ මට ෆෝස් එකයි සර්කියුලර් මොෂන් එකයි මේ වර්ක් පාව වෙනවා. ඒ තුන ඉස්සර වණිගේ සර් ගමන් කිව්වා.
මම පෝස්ට් එක එවන්නම්. සර්කියුලර් මොෂන් උත් ඇති සමහරට මං ගාව. ඒ ටික මං එවන්නම්.
වර්ක් පාව වෙන ඉස්සර මේ චැනල් එකේ තිබ්බ සර්.
තිබ්බද? ඔක්කොම ටික තිබ්බා.
තුනක් තිබ්බා.
ඒ ටික තමයි හිතන්නේ.
මේ සර් ටියුබ් මම සර් මෙසේජ් එකක් දැම්මා.
කොයි එකද උනෝ?
මේ වර්ක් පාව වෙන ඉස්සර මේ තාම වර්ක් ෆෝස් එකේ වර්ක් බුක් එකයි